Hello, this is Yakov Fain, lesson 4 to complete chapter 1 of the book. And today a couple of words about the IDEs that we use or we can use to support to work with TypeScript. Great support of IDEs. The most popular IDE as of today, again based on the Stack Overflow survey, is Visual Studio Code. Not to be confused with Visual Studio. Visual Studio Code is a free IDE and you can get it somewhere here. You can get it from this site, easy download, and you can run it in no time. The other IDE which is pretty popular is WebStorm. WebStorm is from the company called JetBrains. All of you who are Java developers definitely know this company. They create great IDEs. One of them super popular in the Java community is IntelliJ IDEA. WebStorm is specifically like a subset of IntelliJ IDEA, which has great support of TypeScript. As a matter of fact, if you are already using IntelliJ IDEA, you can stay there. You don't need to install or buy WebStorm. Visual Studio Code is free. WebStorm is not free, but it's very inexpensive. Also, there are different text editors that support TypeScript as well. One of the popular ones is Sublime Text. They have plugins for TypeScript. All of these tools use the same TypeScript language service that comes with TypeScript. The only thing is every vendor try to wrap it up some way, one way or the other, so you may see some differences, but technically error and autocomplete should be pretty much similar in each of them. I used to work a lot with WebStorm before, and now I switched to Visual Studio Code, and let's see how to do things there in these editors. So first of all, you need to install it. I already did, of course, and let's do this. Let's start a new project. I will go to my root directory. Let me create a make directory. Make directory. Let's say lesson 4. Right, a CD in this directory, and since I already have Visual Studio Code, let me start it from that directory by typing code dot. To be able to do something like this, Visual Studio Code should be in the path on your computer. You can find how to do this depending on the platform that you use. So we opened it up and we are in the directory lesson 4, as you can see, right? So what do we usually do to start a new TypeScript project? What we do is, let me maximize the screen. So what we do is this: we create a file tsconfig.json with properties for the compiler. Once again, I already have installed TypeScript compiler. So on this lesson 4, I want to create a new file. I want to initialize this directory to be to support TypeScript. So what do? Each of these IDEs that we are talking about now, I'm talking about the Visual Studio Code or WebStorm, they have embedded or integrated terminal window. So you don't need to switch between terminal and IDE. In here it should be terminal, new terminal. See, it created a new panel over here, which is a terminal window. Command plus to make it larger. And this is the terminal window or command prompt window, whatever you call it, and you can type any command in there as you would type in the regular terminal window. So pwd, I use mock. I'm in the lesson 4 directory, ls, nothing there, right? So from the previous lesson, you probably remember that tsc, TypeScript compiler -init, will initialize this directory and it creates a file tsconfig.json. Let me open it up on the left. Yes, it is there. So you see this file. Most of these options are commented out. but there are some that are not. In particular, in this case, by default, this code would be compiled into ECMAScript 5 version. What else we usually do? There is a directory. There is an option called outdir. Outdir. Let me uncomment this out. Outdir. Where to compile, where to save the file with compiled versions of the code of the TypeScript. Where to save JavaScript version of the files. Typically, we use the directory called dist for distribution. It's up to you what you call it, but let me do dist. Now, let's create a simple file over here. Right click. Actually, this is an icon to create a new file. Let's say main.ts. What do we write in there? Let's continue playing with that Pythagorean example, Pythagorean theorem example that I used last time in the previous lesson. That's the code, remember? Let me copy paste it inside that file main.ts. And again, I see similar highlights, similar errors. Remember from last lesson, this one is because implicit any, it doesn't like it, right? So we went through this in lesson 3. Let's fix it real quick, but I just want you to get a feel, so you will see that even though I'm in the IDE, you'll get the same exact help from TypeScript language services that we got from while working in the playground. So what do we want? We want to declare interface. Just watch how the IDE helps me. Interface point x of type number and y of type number. I create a new type point. Let me use it. Point here and point there. As you can see, I keep making mistakes, but I'm not afraid of mistakes. I am with TypeScript. When you work with TypeScript, one of the advantages is that you can concentrate on the business task or on the application's task that you have at hand, instead of worrying about misspelling some words. See, it helps me, it corrects me right away. So, as you can see, similarly to the lesson number 3, we have the same exact error. Why it's the same? Because it comes from the same language service. All right, so we got the error. Let's fix it. Let's do this. What do you do? X, right? Again, type ahead helps. We fixed it. Save. I saved the file. I didn't compile it yet. So what do? I can go to my terminal panel right there and do tsc. I already have TypeScript config.json there in the root directory of this project, right? So if I'll enter tsc, it'll compile it, and take a look up there. It created a folder called dist. Why? Because I configured it that the JavaScript file should go there. So main.js is a compiled version. Why it looks like this? Because we say that we want to use the ECMAScript 5 version of the code for generation. All right, this part is done. By the way, if you want, you can run tsc with the option dash. Sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Arrow up and down. By the way, repeat the last command. Arrow up and down on the keyboard. So let's say I want to do tsc -w. It means I want to run the TypeScript compiler in the watch mode, meaning that it'll compile the code. See, it says starting compilation in the watch mode. And if I will start changing the code somewhere, let's say instead of 3 I do 5, it'll recompile it right away. Let's say I do 5. Save, and you watch down there. See, file change detected, started incremental compilation, it's recompiled this code already. This is a simple example. if you would be developing desktop apps or if you'd be running them under Node.js. But if you would be working in the browser, then the workflow between writing TypeScript and deploying JavaScript would be a little bit different. Let's stop for a second. And see these typical workflows with TypeScript. The simplest case, I'm talking about web apps now. So let's say your web app consists of a bunch of TypeScript files, let's say 50 or 100 or 300, I don't care. A.ts, B.ts, C.ts, these are the TypeScript files that you wrote. Then you would need to compile them into JavaScript files, A.js, now it's JavaScript file, right? B.js, C.js. Your project may have hundreds of files, and we don't want to deploy hundreds of files on the web server. We don't want web browsers to make hundreds of requests just to get some resources from the server. So we want to bundle them up. To bundle up means to create a file which has multiple files in there. So these three files, for example, can be bundled up into one file, main.js. And then you would deploy main.js in your web server, and the browser would load one file which includes basically the code of A.js, B.js, and C.js. During this process, there could be optimization of the code, minimization of the code, but that is the topic of a different discussion. So you would be using some bundler. In particular, the most popular bundler these days is probably Webpack. Later on, when we'll reach part 2, or maybe even sooner, maybe it's chapter 6. Yeah, in chapter 6 we'll talk about Webpack as well. But in part 2, if we will be learning how to work with Angular, with React, with Vue.js, all of it with TypeScript, we'll see how Webpack is working there. So that's one simple case of the workflow. Here's another one. Again, it requires separate lesson and separate discussion how to do this, but if you are working with TypeScript, you can still use thousands and thousands of popular JavaScript libraries which are already out there. For example, you may want to use the library called Lodash.js, super popular library among JavaScript developers, sorry. Or you may want to use Momentum.js or Chart.js. So all these are popular libraries, and you can use all of them in your TypeScript project. So on this slide you see a little bit different workflow. Say you have TypeScript file A.ts, B.ts, C.ts. Your compiler can use special so-called type definition files. We'll talk about them later to get help, type ahead help, and autocomplete and errors, even though the libraries are written in JavaScript by you, but you still can get great help if you have these special type definition files. Let's not worry about them now. So you will be writing your files with extension TS. Then you can bring to the project any library that you like that was written in JavaScript, and that's okay. And they will be merged and bundled together, or maybe separately. Again, all these are the options at your hands. And then finally you'll get a common bundle, which in this slide it includes A, B, C files plus the library Lodash. So this is also valid or typical workflow for JavaScript projects. So if you'd be using a console, like in this case I'm just using TypeScript compiler just to run it in the watch mode, or you could use this console to start a web server to serve your app so you can work with a browser. But what if you still need the console to type other commands? You can open up another console. It's not a big problem. So hit this little plus sign, and now you have another console. See, now we have two. In one, we run Node.js runtime. TypeScript uses it, right? And this one is free, so you can keep working, keep writing any command that you want, right? So what's the big takeaways? We have this great IDE. It's super fast. It's easy to use. There are tons of different plugins. You can find them to make your work more productive. And it includes integrated terminal, where you can run any commands that you like. So let me go back to this terminal and do Control-C to kill this program. And by the way, at the bottom of over here, you can see which library I use at this point. Sorry, which TypeScript version do I use at this point. So we are done with this code. Let's get a feeling of WebStorm. How WebStorm IDE work with the same code. Let me close this guy, and I will go to WebStorm. Do I have it running? No. Let me run it. WebStorm. Once again, it's not free. This IDE is not free, but it's really nice as well. The only thing that I don't like about WebStorm is that on large project, its startup type is much slower. For example, Angular project or React project or Vue project, they may have thousands of dependent files from other libraries and little packages. And if I open the Visual Studio Code IDE, it opens right away. If I open WebStorm, it starts some secret internal indexing process, which can take 10 seconds, 20 seconds, depending on how big your project is. It's really, really annoying. Other than that, I do like WebStorm IDE and IntelliJ, of course. So take a look. Is this? Which it's probably some leftovers. Let me open up again the same directory that I just created, just to compare apples and apples. Lesson 4 I created today. Let me open it up. In this window, I'll open a different project. To open a project means to open a directory in one IDE or the other. So see, we are over here. Now we have already done this. Remember, we just compiled main.ts. Main.ts is over here. Let me open it up. So we have this code that I wrote. Let me get rid of this and just again recreate all that. So you will see how it helps you. TypeScript error cannot find name, cannot find type point. Of course, it can't because I just removed it, right? So let me see the same error. See, any times is not allowed. All of these things are the same because they use the same service. Let me start typing. See, it helps me. Autocomplete, IntelliSense, interface. Which interface? I want to create point, right? And in there, X number, semicolon, Y number, semicolon. Now we'll do it over here, point. See, it helps. I like it, so I hit tab. Point. I hit tab. It's right there. So this code is similar. Now the difference though is that in line number 13 you will see that WebStorm helps you with parameter names. Take a look. See this point A in the gray background. It's not something that I typed. IDE helps me telling, you know what, over here it expects you to provide point A. Over here it helps me saying that it expects point B. So see, there are little differences in IDE that you may or may not like. So it's in my opinion, it's pretty handy. So I provide object literal over here as a parameter, and it tells me yes, it's supposed to be point A. Alrighty. So what else? Yeah, I wanted to show you the terminal window. The same thing. WebStorm has this terminal window, and you can find it over there, down there, and it's in the menu as well. So see, you have a terminal window. You can do the same thing. You can compile the code if you want, See, the code is compiled. You can add more terminal windows if you need to. I hit plus, and I have another terminal window, and so on. So these IDE are really great for TypeScript development. And if you want to use something else, like Sublime Text, for example, go ahead and find the package for TypeScript support. They have special plugin for this. In my experience, they are not that polished as, say, these IDEs, so I prefer working with IDEs, but it's up to you. Find any editor that supports TypeScript, and if you like it, use it. If you don't, go with Visual Studio Code. And this concludes my coverage of the material from Chapter 1 from the book TypeScript Quickly. Thank you.